nastojanju da na neki način, na što formalni način ovo organiziram je ovo pokušaj. So, I want to make this less formal as possible. I believe that all people here somehow came here because they are interested in topic and what we are talking about, and topic is about institutional and non-institutional organizations, how education, how can work together, or then are they confront each other or something like that. But before we begin, I would really like to invite our guests to give a short introduction, each of them, about who are they, what they are doing, so we know what the background is and what kind of reflection maybe you can share with us. So Casey, maybe you can start with you.
Excuse me. My name is Casey Shea. I'm the coordinator for Maker Education at a county office of education in California, in the United States. So we have about 70 to 80,000 students from 5 to 18. And my job is to help teachers create environments for those students to have engaging, creative problem-solving opportunities. I came to this work because first I was a high school math teacher. Well, first I was a student myself. We don't need to go back that far. But the path to this work, I was a high school math teacher for 10 years in the same small town that the Maker Faire was produced. The headquarters for Make Magazine and the Maker Faire was in the same small town that my high school was. And Dale Doherty, who was the publisher of the magazine, the founder of the fair, came to our high school and said he wanted to see, well, he had seen and heard enough stories from parents whose children would come to the Maker Faire and present their project, that they would spend hours and hours and hours and months throughout the year building to share with people at the Maker Faire, yet weren't engaged at all in their traditional studies. Right? They couldn't be bothered to study for their math test, but they spent hundreds of hours producing this robot that obviously sparked something. They had capacity, they had interest and intelligence. They weren't showing it at school. He wanted to try and bring the best part of the Maker Faire into a traditional educational setting. So the first year we taught that class on the campus of Make Magazine. We walked up, about a 15-minute walk, and met some incredible people. Certainly changed the way that I viewed my job as a teacher. And each year past that, the first year I just had the one Make class and then 4 math classes. Each year past that, I became one part more of a Maker teacher, one part less of a math teacher, until I eventually was able to just work with teachers because there was enough excitement that we were able to build by having the students share their excitement and knowledge. So my job now is to try and do that more formally, to try and work with teachers to get those kind of opportunities in math classes or history classes, or better yet, just in education where they're not, the subjects aren't so siloed, right? Where students don't see science as disconnected from math, disconnected from history, but how can we bring those all together? So I could say lots more, but the idea of making, we were just talking beforehand, it opens a pathway for a student's, what they can see in their mind. The definition of making, the working definition that I have is taking an idea that starts in your head and sharing it, putting it into form somehow where you can share it tangibly. Whether that's a physical object or an app or a video or something, but it starts in your head so you're understanding something in a way that I can share it with people. And I believe that that's our job as educators, is to spark that sort of interest and bring that person's humanity and passions into what they're doing. And nothing has opened that pathway more than making, in my experience. So I could go on and on, but I'll save that for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Piet. I'm from Belgium. I am one of the co-founders of a non-profit organization which is called My Machine. And what My Machine is all about is that we ask, it's a 3-step methodology. First step is we ask children in primary class if we could build a dream machine for you, what would that dream machine do? Now we consider a chair to be a machine that helps you sit down. So it means, dream machine means it could be anything, as long as the child really, really wants it. In step number 2, university students help in translating that idea into a concept. And in step number 3, vocational or technical secondary level students help building a real working prototype. So in one school year, we go from idea to concept to working prototype. And so children invent fantastic things like the chase away the evil ghosts machine, so that they can go to sleep safe and sound. It was important that this device should not only chase away the evil ghosts, but it should also make sure that the good ghosts stay and protect them during the night. So it has become a cute sort of a robot that gives them the status reports, so that they know these bad ghosts are gone and these good ones will stay and protect you during the night. They invent, I don't know whether or not it is in Croatia a problem, but if you have a bunk bed, you know, where somebody sleeps below and somebody sleeps on top, immediately you would have a discussion with children that they all want to sleep on top. And so these children created a solution for this. I've learned this is a worldwide issue, and they created a solution by inventing a rotating bunk bed. So you never have to discuss anymore, it gets to sleep on top of the boat. They invent a homework making machine. I've also learned that there's very few children out there that really like to make homework. So they invent a machine that does the homework for them. Or the clean up my room machine, or the help my parents clean up the house machine, or the make friends machine. And sometimes it goes deep, where, for example, there was this child that says, my dream machine is a machine that creates happy houses. A happy home. And of course we dig deeper then, and unfortunately this child was suffering a bad divorce which was going on. So that's what we do, but the why we exist is, of course, not for, we don't exist to create working prototypes. That's just an excuse for the process in which, and the process for us is about building creative confidence for primary school children, vocational secondary level and university level, so that those young people understand that their own ideas matter, that their own ideas could make a difference. And no matter what they want to do later on in life, whether they want to become a dancer or a writer or create their own company or create their own non-profit organization, it all starts with having this creative confidence that your idea could actually work. And that's what we're trying to do, and showing to them that you can actually bring any idea to life, even though if your idea might sound challenging to somebody else's ear, don't be afraid to share it. And we show them that you can actually bring any idea to life as long as you allow this idea the time to grow, and that you don't judge an idea within the first 10 seconds you hear it. I think probably a lot of us have been in this meeting where you would be expressing an idea, and then the people joining you in the meeting would, within 30 seconds, you get all the reasons why your idea won't work. Legislation is going to be too expensive, you will never make the deadline. And so that's what we're trying to do with My Machine, is showcasing that give the idea the time to grow and you can bring any idea to life. We've built twice, by the way, independently. Children in Portugal and children in Belgium invented the jump to the moon machine. So, I mean, a normal reaction would be jump to the moon. You know, what a stupid idea is that? It's impossible to build. We've built it twice. So that's what we want to showcase with My Machine. And I have to say, we're very proud. We started in Belgium, but My Machine is now expanding. We have we create what we call chapters in different countries. And as we speak, My Machine Hrvatska is going to start very, very shortly. So we're very excited about that.
Jumping to the moon, it's great entrance to our next guest, Korado.
We are not trying to do My name is Korado Korlević, coming from officially Višnjan Observatory, but it is more complicated because it is a network of non-governmental, non-profit organizations that are sharing all the same ideas, and these ideas, I need to go back for a few decades. During the former Yugoslavia, we had in the last 20 years one maybe of the best project-driven technology developing in school programs. So it was in Slovenia and Croatia was really top leader science fairs like in the United States. So it was the top of the top. And during the war and after, I just showed disappearing of science, technology, it was only language, music, just selling dreams was the only things that was left in the school. And I had these students ask me, and what we are going to do? And we just decided that we are not going to left science, technology, experiment that we accumulated years to die. And we organized the Astronomical Society, Science Education Center, Explorer Clubs, just to give them a way to express themselves. If you really don't, they are not able to do music or write poetry, they are born engineers. And we just collected this bunch of kids. In the meantime, we made with the kids the first robot-eye telescope in 1986. The first scanner of images with software to elaborate images 1 year before that. So we were, and these kids are now, they are managers or project managers in the United States. The biggest telescope that is built in Chile, the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, you have 3 Croats in the top 10 of the project, our kids. So we just wanted to continue to give a different kids a possibility to continue to express the creativity, the will, and as we were desperate to do it, we found a lot of help from other people that share our ideas. So it was not governmental finance, but it was just friends of idea searching money to build it. Now these ex-kids are relatively wealthy and help that the project is going out. So we have the youngest 9 years, the assistant 14, the mentors 20, the lecturers 30. But it is the same ideas, the same people rotating, and they know I'm going to become a scientist, but I'm obliged to return at Višnjan and to have a lecture for the kids because it is some kind of, it is not perpetuum mobile, but we hope to have something that is continuing that way. Yeah, and we learned that we don't need the state in this case.
And Alexandre is here. You finished?
Yeah, but I can elaborate, but it is, you have an idea. Just a bunch of people that was not happy, desperate, want to help kids, and these kids understand and continue the machine working because they also want that somebody that is very similar to them have the same youth as they have.
Thank you. Alexandre?
So my name is Alexandre, I'm from France. I'm not representative of a project or whatever because I don't have gray hair, so I still have time to spend to work on my own idea. And I think I'm more like a person who try to keep his creativity from child time and try to follow what is exciting me when it's exciting me, and when it starts to be boring, I try to find a way to make it fun or to change, improve, and change my point of view and go further. And yeah, so try to follow my dream or follow the fun, I don't know. And yeah, I was working with kids after my students. I was about student, so I did mechanical school, computer school, woodworking school, art school, and then the art school was the kind of solution for me. And then started to be involved in FabLab and Makerspace because I really wanted to share be a part of a community, be linked with people who follow the dream, follow the needs, or just want to share what they learned, or sharing in making. So that's why really most point, and I'm happy to be with you and for sharing more and learning more and making more.
Makers in soul. So yeah, thank you for the introduction. So our topic is related to what is our role. So some of you are coming from institutional organization, but not all. And but you are making stuff, Casey. And what is our role? You listen to Piet and Korado and Alexandre. Maybe from your point of view, how we can help, or what you see our position as, let's say, non-institutional education, or promoting some new ideas or something like that. What you can say about it?
So, in addition to working at the county office, I also started a company with a colleague from Indiana University at Maltese to train teachers in changing their way of doing business, right? So I feel like the most important thing that I can do to help children is to help teachers realize that they need to, that the world is different than when they went to school, and they need to change their delivery method and just about everything of the way schools were designed 100 years ago. That's a difficult thing. Not impossible. It's a very difficult thing for teachers to do, right? They're used to being experts in their subject. They were probably good at school, and the traditional system worked for them to be able to become teachers or want to become teachers. And yet, the model that was formed 100 years ago was designed for a world that doesn't exist anymore. So how to give teachers both the understanding and the belief, help them see that this change needs to be made, but also some skills and some support for building the plane while you're flying it, right? You don't have enough time to actually redesign things in the way that you might do it most efficiently, just to stop, regroup, get everybody together and design a new system. Kids have to be taught every day, and we can't afford to throw away, to waste anybody's education. So another metaphor is we build the train tracks while we're driving the train, but we need to build a different set of tracks. So with the Maker Educator Collective group and some funding by a technical company's education foundation, we've been able over the last 4 years to bring maybe 300 or 400 teachers together at 6 or 7 different events from around the country, and actually internationally over the last couple of years with us having to meet virtually. Then people from anywhere could join us on screen. So yes, we have some projects and some things that we know can maybe start people down that road, but the real value, I think, is creating a community of teachers and connecting them from different sites, right? In my area and in all the conversations I've had, there's always 1 or 2 teachers maybe in a particular building who have these creative ideas and are doing incredible things, but then the people who are maybe across the hall think that their students are too loud or too messy and aren't getting, following the program, essentially. So it's connecting those teachers who are doing the innovative things in different sites, either in their same city, their same state, or anywhere in the world, for that matter now, to form that tribe and that community that can both offer support, sharing experience, just building this movement and the power, sharing the power, and best practices, right? And we're spectacular failures as well. We can learn from all of those things. So that part of my job, and it's in all the roles that I do. I also coordinate a program for a Maker Certificate in our local university. And in all those roles and everything that I try and do, it's really provide that spark and then support the teachers who are the ones who get it. Right? I could lay out a table full of materials and a short prompt, and within a half hour, I could see that whatever dozen or handful of people, it depends on who the crowd is, who can take what we're doing, and then I can see their wheels turning about where that could live in their practice. And by supporting those people, not trying to mandate that everybody has to do this, because that's never going to work, but by supporting those people, we've seen growth in our area. So identifying and supporting those people who are already leaning in that way, I feel like it's been our most effective work right now. And those sparks come from all kinds of mostly informal settings. Museums, people that have met at maker fairs, artists, all kinds of people just doing what they love. And the hope is that we can enable teachers or let them see that their passions can be part of their job as well and their work. So, I hope that answers something.
Thank you. Sometimes, those teachers, even in Croatia, in schools, you can find one teacher, but he's against all others, probably trying to do something new, something different, and bringing them together can be also motivating and much easier for them to sustain or to preserve this enthusiasm to doing something different.
Exactly.
And Piet?
Yeah, well, I'd like to add that in what we do, we have the opportunity to work with amazing teachers, and nowadays in different countries. And it's what you say, Casey, is very recognizable. And what I've seen is that there's also people understanding that we do have in many countries, probably if not all countries, we do have an education system that is indeed outdated. And then I see people creating new types of schools, completely new types of primary schools, new types of secondary level schools. And all of those, I've been fortunate to meet some of those and visit some of those schools, and all of them have a different angle to it. And they do, they do great stuff, and they really do education in a totally different way. And I support that a lot. Now, despite the fact that there are those new types of schools popping up in different countries around the world, despite that, the vast majority of children are still in very traditional schools, also in my country, in Belgium, in very traditional schools, doing education very traditionally. And I know so many teachers that want to do things differently, but it's also, a teacher is oftentimes on itself, and it's oftentimes fighting as one individual against a rigid system. And that, of course, is tiring and is not totally not easy to do. And I think this is where non-formal organizations can help out and can bring one piece of the puzzle, of the big puzzle that we need to transform education. And one of it, what we see, for example, is feedback that we got from teachers. Let me give an example of a secondary level teacher, vocational secondary level educator, saying like, it was a gentleman, and he said, my first year as a teacher, I was creative, I wanted to do stuff, so I came up with something, an idea, some kind of product, and I was going to build that product with my students, let's say a bicycle, I forgot what he said, but some kind of new type of bicycle, and I'm going to teach my students how to weld metal and how to build some aluminium parts into it and some electronics for the lightning, and it was great. And then the second year, I could not repeat making the bicycle again, because then, the students talk to each other as well, and so the second year students, or the new ones would say, are we doing the same bicycle as last year? Well, that's great. You know how it goes. So this teacher said, I wanted a new idea, And so in my second, I had a new idea. And then we go to year number 3, and as this teacher came into year number 4, he was like, my goodness, what am I going to do now? You know, it's kind of like, it becomes more and more difficult to come up with something new, fresh, creative. And I think this is, for example, and this teacher said, this is where in our case, where my machine steps in. Where we say, we come up, now he joins my machine year after year with his class. Where he says, I don't have to think about myself as a standalone teacher, think about, okay, what is it that I'm going to do this year with my students? It's like my education levels could match so that you can indeed go from ideation to working prototype. And then follow it up and making sure that you deliver, because my machine delivers. You know, we never want to disappoint a child. We will always deliver. You would be on your own, and that would be a hard fight. And so that is what we do. We take all of that organizational stuff out of the way of the teacher, and so that the teacher can do what she or he is loving to do, which is stimulating children, which the pedagogy behind it and so on. And we take away all of the other stuff, which is actually not anything that has nothing to do with education, and that is what we take up on us. And so in our case, I think this is why I do believe that what people call project-based learning, other people call it maker-centered learning, the learning through the making of something, the learning, project-based learning, learning through going through a project from A to Z. I do think that this is a great way of bringing a bit of new types of education and a bit of creativity inside the existing, rigid, outdated education system. I think the way to go is through project-based learning. And teachers I would advise teachers, of course, to be free in their choice. It could be that one year they say, we're going to do this project, it's going to join in, whatever it is. Next year, maybe we'll do another project, but it is project-based learning. And I do think that project-based learning is the way forward into transforming this old system into step by step. It's more like bottom-up, transforming it into something new and more accurate.
How your kids which experience great work in Višnjan manage, if probably some of them became teachers, how they manage this? Or they decide not to be teacher because they don't have this freedom?
I was working 12 years in the school, and I know all this problem about the syndicates. Even the parents are against the change because the parents think that the way they learn was the same. So we started with the idea. If you have gifted kids, they don't like small projects. They like save humanity, just a big one. And these big projects need to be cut in small pieces, made in tens or hundreds of small projects with mentor kids, but working on something big. And was one of these big, we have a problem with asteroids. The asteroids can hit the Earth. The dinosaur perished in an impact as that 66 million years ago. Can we help to prevent it? Yes, and we started with the small robotic telescope 30 years back. We become one of the 20 best observatories in the world in discoveries asteroids. At the moment, with the 4th observatory or project in the world as a number of observation of potentially hazardous objects, with all the telescope equipment and software done by these not so small kids anymore, but they continue to be part of that. This was one of these huge. Another one was this swamp. With all these birds are going to be destroyed and the swamp is going to be dried. Can we help these birds? What we can do? And we cut the problem. We need to observe the birds, so we need a bird observing observatory. We need telescope for that. We need boats. We need to build some artificial islands for the ducks to to lay eggs. We need to have nice pictures in the city library about the birds and the swamp. We need to manipulate delegates in the municipality, but we can do it because they are our parents and our grandparents, and we are going to do it at home. And we managed in 10 years to have the bird observatory, boats, artificial islands, the swamp become Natura 2000 protected area, and now they are speaking about making a visitor center, and the city is becoming proud of the swamp and what they can have there. Or the last project was in the North Adriatic. We have some natural sources of methane coming from the bottom. And you have the whole ecological system living on eating methane or eating animals and bacteria that eat methane. So it is not related to the sun, but it is not research. So, okay, we are going to make remote operating vehicles to go there because it is too deep, we cannot dive, and we have no permission to dive because we are too young. We can make a manipulator to take all the samples that we need. We need a laboratory that is oxygen-free because these bacteria are going to die if we bring them in an atmosphere of oxygen. And they started to do it. They make it last week. They organized the fishermen to bring them there, to put the rope down, to take samples, and to think what they are going to do next year with the younger kids, because the kids was 20 years old. So the first exploration of the place was of these students of 20 years, and where they are going to split between them. Building of the next generation of ropes, building a special container with atmosphere that is oxygen-free. Think about how to take samples and bring them without, in the transport, have oxygen in between. So these are these projects. Let's do something huge, cut it in small pieces, and it is not 1 year project. It is a long. They start as 9 years old, and they end in the project with 10, 20 years old. But the project needs to be not, let's repeat an experiments of Galileo. Let's do something that never was done. Like in the movie, the place that never human food was before. So this is the idea. Let's do something very, very, very strange. Yeah, and try to be the best.
Thank you. Interesting. Alexandre, what is your experience doing something with kids? We talked about this also in previous days, and how makers they do interesting job, or is it sensible? You have very critical opinion about this, so I would like to let you share.
I'm a kind of a critic, pessimist, and optimist at the same time. Yeah, so I was working as Fab manager, and I was working also in art center. And in art center, people are coming for art, and they understand why they come. And in the FabLab, it's more complicated because this name FabLab is carrying most of the people that should come. In fact, so it's. I think that's why we should avoid this FabLab stuff and saying, hey, you're welcome, instead of, FabLab. And because we want all the energy and people who are, interested to be humans, I think. And my experience, I was working with teachers sometimes, and I was also doing some workshops with teachers who was in school for teachers. And there was already a little bit less passionate and less crazy or less motivated about discovering new things and so on. And kids are, they want to be a part of community, they want to dream, they want to learn more. And at school, we are following programs, and we don't understand sometimes why we are learning. I was really bad at maths, as I told you before, and I never understand what was happening with maths. And when I started to be in the FabLab, I started to do some electronic, and I learned a lot of stuff. Oh, why? And when I started to check, okay, it's because of this bomb or because of this intensity and all those laws about electronics, about mathematics, about force, resistance, and so on, came back to me and I was like, yeah, I didn't learn that. And now I start to learn it back. And I think that maybe the makers are passionate people about what they are doing. Really don't care. It can be about, I don't know, it can be about art or painting or theater or whatever. But passionate people, we are available for collaborating. We can give ideas to teachers, but teachers can have also plenty of ideas. Just, it's up to be brave when you are between the hammer and the anvil, between the kids who want things, and parents and institutions don't. So it's kind of difficult. But maybe you can, teachers can invite makers, and makers can also still keep the door open for teachers, and maybe teachers can bring one of kids who is not good at school, or maybe is good and he's maybe interested about watching stars, or maybe he's not, but or he wants to know how to weld, and he will find a place where he can learn how to weld with creative people, with people who are dreaming about something. And I think there's all NGOs place where you can find people who are really talented. I don't like the idea of gifted, but who have plenty of skills and knowledges. All people in makerspace or in different places can be engineers working for companies and having like a lot of money, but what those people want is sharing, and if we are here, it's also for sharing again and see how we can share more. And so I think it's what makers can bring to education, and I don't know if it's formal or non-formal, or if we need to create a new form. Let's figure it out how we can do it together.
Okay, so this discussion can go in different directions. My first intention was maybe to ask about something about how to sustain your activities, but because Korado opened this, and it's also different between some of you. What we also try to do when we are doing some activities, and Theo is here yesterday, they got a workshop with the teachers, and I know they are doing this, dealing with the real problems. And Korado, tell us about this, how this can be motivated. Is it this something what make us different from school kind of work? Dealing with the real problems is something what motivate kids to sustain when problems rise, when challenging periods start, because they are doing something for big picture. So,
but
you
also
say,
not only science.
Yeah.
You have how to modify local politics. We want to protect the swamp. So the kids start to think that they have some relatives that are in the municipality boards that can really do it, how to influence the cities that really want that swamp and these birds to stay there. So it is not only science. You need to have the whole picture, and they discuss how to do it. Each group, it is an expert for the small part, but they all share the big picture, and they discuss also the other things. So this is important during the briefing. You have the briefing that is absolutely briefing. It is 3 hours of discussion, presenting what they have done, and discussing, making questions, what is the next. What we found, that this project we start to run in one school, elementary school, that is known because of arts, music, and we found that not all kids in the school are able to understand, like we had, when you have the distribution Gaussian of kids, okay, we have only the 2 extremes. The middle, we're happy of the school as it is, but who cannot and who can do a lot, just don't find themselves there, who can think they make photographs, that the others made an island for the ducks, organize everything, organize the dinner, because we cook there in the forest near the swamp. So everybody was useful in the project. Or the ones that nobody wants, and the ones that nobody wants were there. 10% of the kids were there every Saturday. If it was raining, they're still there because they don't want to miss the Saturday that we are doing there. So, passion, it is also something to think. The local politics or influencing politics, something to need to teach them. Also, entrepreneurship. They are not doing the grow one, the small one, the kids are going to do it. So it is, and what was the experiment? Was just a normal Croatian elementary school in Novigrad that we managed to have the project for 4 years, and the project ended, and the kid asked, okay, we are going to continue. And we continue, and we continue, and now they are going to have this reserve that the city is going to take care of the swamp, of everything. So we succeed, and they understand that if you really focus, you can do it. And this is the lecture for the life. I suppose that every of these kids, see, if you focus, you are going to succeed.
Yes, you extended the question of dealing with the real problems to also how each kids working in a group can contribute with their skills.
Everybody understands that if I'm not making, they're not going to eat. I need to make a fire, cook the sausages, everything. So everybody's going to be hungry if you are not doing it. The other like the idea to have this floating island for the ducks to be sure to make legs without foxes coming and attack them. So they just are happy when they see the nest with the eggs that the duck made there, because they said that. So everybody was happy, and also the other with the pictures exposed in the school and in the library that they made. So, but the feeling of the group, we are doing something that is making our city a better place. This is something that I hope they learn and they understand that they really can make change if you focus for 10 years.
And by this, we can expect that when they became a kind of decision makers or make some influence, they will be very responsible because they built somehow already this different city. So yes.
I just wanted to say, we see absolutely the same thing happening in what we do in my machine. We say this a lot. The core of it is about respecting each other's talents. And so there's many. This is also, my machine is also about entrepreneurial skills. Some people call it now 21st century skills, but it's about that, and it's about finding your part of the dynamics. Like, who am I? What is my passion? And how can I contribute in our case, the building of this dream machine? And for some kids, it is about some specific part of the technology. For other kids, it might be about the discussion on, when the final prototype is going to be built, what kind of colors will it have? And this child might be passionate about psychology of colors and understanding, let's paint it red because red has this influence on the human brain, and so on. So it's like, and some other kids have their passion in organizing the group dynamics, and they learn from themselves, like, okay, I'm kind of like a connector. I'm kind of like, and that this will be my part of what I'm doing in a team. And so this is about respect, and also what they indeed also need to learn is what we see is that nothing comes easy. We live in an instant society, where if you go online to a web shop and you order before 10 o'clock in the evening, it's like the promise, we will ship it to your front door by the next 24 hours. So we have now children that create, they make a drawing of their dream machine, and they say to us, okay, here's my drawing, so are you going to ship the prototype tomorrow? And I was like, no, it's going to take a lot of time. And they need to learn, like, okay, nothing comes easy. It's going to be with ups and downs. We're going to face some issues. And this is also part of learning, like, this instant society thing there's a lot behind it so that we can actually live in this instant society, but they learn that as well.
What about real problems and group dynamics?
So a couple things came up over the last few
so,
minutes, and I think they're related to the topic that you just mentioned. One is, in my class when I was teaching at the high school level, I mentioned I was a former math teacher, so I'm more aware of the system of tracking and placing students in mathematics in the US. It's rare. Let's see, in my class I would have students from 9th to 12th grade, so whatever, 14, 15 to 18-year-old, and of all different levels. And again, I knew as a math teacher that I had students who were struggling for the second or third time to pass Algebra 1, which is traditionally a first-year class, in the same class with students who were taking AP Calculus, right, which is the senior top-end class. And that, first of all, that was a rare thing, except maybe in physical education or art class maybe. But in a class where we were talking about things that did have some relevance into their studies, it was almost unheard of that you would have those students mixing. And the part where I get goosebumps, we call them, I know there's funny words, and I love to hear in other languages what people call it, the same things, was when the students who were the struggling math students could teach those other students something, right? The higher end students something. Whether it was practical knowledge, whether it was whatever. That was eye-opening for both groups of students, and one of the things that I enjoy the most out of teaching a class like that. But the other piece is that even those top-end students were top-end students because they were good at the system that was designed to perpetuate test-taking, right? Or learning a concept so that you can pass a test, and then usually those concepts are flushed out because they're not addressed again, or they're not part of their normal routine. So the example that comes to me, I forget what the project was, but the students wanted to figure out or remember, because I'm sure that they had passed the test, about gear ratios. And they had to change the gear ratio of a motor, and they asked me, because I was a teacher and I was supposed to give them the answer, if there's a bigger gear on the motor and a smaller gear that's attached to it, is that going to make it go faster or slower? And of course, I learned by that point that I could answer the question, but I could also ask them, I'm not sure, how could you figure that out? How could you find that out? And with the tools that we had in the class, they were able to design and cut the gears on a laser cutter, just wooden or acrylic prototypes, I forget, within a matter of minutes, attach it to a motor, and see with their own eyes the answer to their question. So I believe that they'll hold on to that knowledge a lot more because they've actually built it and they solved a problem that was important to them for whatever their project was. I don't even remember what it was at the time. But that little piece of knowledge was just in time, right? They needed that to get their idea into their hands. So I believe that learning sticks more, is a more beneficial learning. I can talk more about that, but the other piece that came up is that just before I left, we convened a group of students from all around the county in what we're calling the Environmental Justice Coalition. So environmental justice, sort of the intersection of environmental stewardship and then social justice. We have in the US, probably around the world, people disproportionately impacted by environmental pollutants and all kinds of things in lower income, people of color communities. So you both mentioned it, but one of the things when we were doing empathy interviews with students as they were graduating, one of the things that stuck with me is a student who, again, by all accounts, was a brilliant student. Her main complaint was that she was solving problems that had already been solved. Right? Replicating solutions, as you mentioned, Galileo's, mapping of the universe or whatever. Right? How come I'm not putting all this knowledge and all my institutional education to solving problems that I see around me all over the world? So we're hoping to do something similar to what you're talking about. We've got, I think it was 13 teams, and we invited a lot of local community experts and formed these teams with mentors, and then our job is to help coach the teams along, but also to connect them to whatever local experts we can find in our area, and there's many people who can help them, first of all, identify the problem that they want to work on, and then come up with some solutions. And my hope is that it won't just be a paper solution, but through their work, they'll learn what the levers of influence in the local community councils, whatever their schools, to be able to affect these changes that they've identified that are important to them and important to all of us, certainly. But real ways to interact with real people and try and create those changes. So I hope that was somewhere on the topic, but there were two things that bubbled up from the conversation.
Maybe to add another layer, which I usually don't like to open discussion about this, especially in our context, but how to sustain your activities, and we discussed just before we begin. There are some examples of the great institutions which are not, let's say, financed properly by some, let's say, state or something. So how this impact, what is the relation, what is your opinion about how to make such activities sustainable or something like that? So not, if we have more money, it will be everything better, but what is your opinion about a kind of sustainability issues, how to make it work for a longer time? How you make work for 10 years, let's say.
Somehow we come from the Italian tradition that have the motto "Governo lato." That means of the government the holy thief. So arrange yourself, and if something comes, okay, but arrange yourself. So we started in that way, and we have some projects sent to the ministries, foundations, sometimes around, sometimes not. But we take care that have local sponsors, that we try not to have expensive things. We really don't need, we want to have a group of bird watchers. And we found that we can buy hats on discount, and we just bought 20 hats, and they put the hats in their group. So it is not something that costs, and one sausage, it is not something that the cost is too much to be there and to have the lunch. So the programs are only time, mentor expensive. And you can do it for years with volunteers. After that, it's becoming too complex, but you already are visible and some sponsorship are coming. So it is also something that the kids need to learn, that everything have a price, and that you need to find a money for that. Or you need to learn how to do it without money. So our telescope, the first telescope, the real price to make it was 2 years of work, was 75 Deutschmark, it is something $30. Price of the telescope was made car parts, everything. And with the telescope we discovered more than 1,400 new asteroids. So the kids understand that ideas come first. The money comes after. And you already don't need it and comes after. Just they also need to learn the code. That at the beginning, with your ideas, nobody supporting you, just need to push it, volunteer, whatever. It is difficult at the beginning. So it is just a process of that. And after that, the money is coming, new cameras, new telescope, everything is gift when you are doing. But it is the same in sport. You are becoming, nobody's buying your shoes. After that, the sponsor is going to be very happy to give you new shoes. So it is the same always in the life, and they need to learn. At the beginning is tough, you need to have passion, to have strpljenje, passions, to have passions and just to understand. You know that you are good, the others don't know how you are good. You need to show how you are good. It is not something that people can see your thoughts, your ideas, your ethics. It is something that you need to show. It is a process. It is not something that comes in the same moment. So it is always difficult to finance something, or if we see the organizations that are state-financed, really, do you think that they are the best in the world? Just take United States. You have University of Arizona and Arizona State University, which
we had our jobs, but we just did it in plus, and we needed a little bit of money just to not to pay ourselves, but a little bit to buy some material and stuff. And so what we did was we went to companies and asked company owners if they would want to sponsor, and the ones that did sponsor were company owners that said, you know what, this idea sounds crazy enough, we're in, you know, that's what we want to sponsor. And the same thing is we went to educators and we asked educators in our personal circle that we knew, primary, secondary, university professors, and looked for what I would say those, you know, what we call early adopters, those people that with their own imagination could already see what, in our case, what my machine was going to do, and they could just imagine it and say, well, it sounds amazing, let's do this. And because the other way around is that if you would ask educators that could not see that, then you'll have a difficult start, because you will constantly, day after day, you will have to try to motivate those educators to be part of it. So if you really want to build up from nothing, it's about finding those early adopters, neglecting the other people, because you're the one that's seeing it and you're the one that want to showcase, and then afterwards other people will respond to it and say like, okay, now I understand what this is all about. And so indeed I would say, I would always say it's like bottom up with passion. Bottom up is the way to go. But sometimes it's also where top down and bottom up comes together, that it can also create some sparks. And for example, in our case, I would say my machine is very much on purpose. The way we grow my machine internationally is really bottom up, patiently looking for partners that want to set up my machine in their local area using local money. My machine South Africa runs on South African money. My machine United States runs on American money. It's not that we're coming in with money and say like, here's some money, would you want to run my machine in Croatia? No. And so it's running in local money means that it's bottom up. And but what top down means in our case is that maybe, and this is something that we want to do, is inspire politicians, inspire people, what United States calls the superintendents and so on, those kind of people who are in charge of managing the education system, that maybe their role could be is to open up the system so that educators can join with their class and can do project-based learning. This is something that could be done top down. And then the other thing I would want to say is that, of course, there are some differences between countries. For example, there's a big difference between the United States and a country like Belgium in terms of government funding. In Belgium, we are actually the number one. There's lists, and there's a list in which Belgium is the number one in the world, that we're world champion, and it's how much tax money we pay. So we Belgians pay the most tax money than any other country on the world. What we expect in return from the Belgian government, we pay that much taxes, and we as individuals, both and also companies, we expect the government to organize healthcare, to organize education, to organize public transport, to organize all of these things because we pay for it. And I've learned in the United States and in other countries it's a different model. And so it means that, for example, the benefit, and none of the models is, there's always pluses and downsides on any model. One of the pluses of the American model is that there's downsides to it as well, but one of the pluses is that there's more, there's a lot of foundations and what you call family offices, families that raised somehow a lot of money and they want to give back to society. And so there's lots of opportunities in the United States to talk to people with money, private people, private company foundations, public foundations, family offices, to say, hey, I got an idea for this or that, would you be willing to sponsor? Those big amount of opportunities which are there in the United States are non-existent in Belgium. There's almost none of that in Belgium. And so if there's like no Belgian family willing to give you some money, seed money for your bottom-up story, then and we pay so much taxes, then it's kind of a natural thing to also look at the government and say like, okay, could you be willing to sponsor? And we see organizations doing that. We as My Machine, we did not do it. We really started with a bit of our own money, with company sponsors, and it was only 3 or 4 years down the road that the Belgian government said, what you're doing, we just love what you're doing, and we want to support as well. But they said they wanted to support it, we didn't ask them. So yeah.
What's your opinion how we can make it sustainable, such activities which are...
Sure. So yes, there are local organizations, and unfortunately those tend to perpetuate. The schools that are in more affluent areas have more of those opportunities. So one of our jobs at the county office is to try and not redistribute, but try and advocate for some of those schools that don't have, such free money around. But I'm asked probably once a month by somebody in some school, either in our area or somewhere else, can you send me, we want to start a makerspace in our school, can you send me a list of the tools that we need to buy to suddenly have a makerspace? As if a tool in a room is going to be this creative, unleashing of energy. And what I'll always, first I'll ask, how long do you have to spend your money? Because we want to put off any major decisions for as long as we can. But oftentimes, one of the crazy things of education is you've got this amount of money and you have to spend it by this date. Otherwise you lose it. And if you lose it this year, then you've proven that you don't need it for next year. And so some horrible decisions are made just because the calendar pages are turning. Unfortunately, that's a reality, so we have to keep that in mind. But I would always say, start with tools that you can safely cut cardboard with, or glue guns that are not going to be safer for a 5-6-year-old kid to have in their hand, and work on your staff, training staff, and cultivating that curiosity in those things in the staff. And the stuff, it's only one letter different in English, but that is less important. It's easier to get. You can get the money to buy a one-time capital expenditure to buy that stuff, but if you don't have the staff and the mindset created, that stuff is just going to collect dust, just going to be a paperweight at some point. So start with the hand tool, low-tech stuff, and then you end up with prototypes like I saw you guys building yesterday over here. Those things, when a student or a teacher has a story to go behind whatever those prototypes are, they can go and be advocates for the necessary stuff to make them more complicated, sophisticated, high-tech models that flow from that. But it has to come from that idea that, yes, I can solve a problem. Yes, it is something that's valued here. And then those students and teachers are the best advocates for attracting that money, because they become excited and are sharing their passions. And that, unfortunately, is not something that's commonly seen. Right? When I was teaching my math class, I would never have people say, can I stand at lunch to finish this worksheet? Or can I come in on Saturday and do this test again? But they would always want to do that for their project, right? So that passion can be made with cardboard and recycled materials, and should be started with that. And then you can see, if I had a laser cutter, I could make something that would be super slick, that would look really good in a display. But you need to have that foundation and that passion, and that mindset and that culture that we can make things and make a difference. Right.
I don't have much to say because I think it's well resumed. I think this saying bottom up, it's community, the people first, and the money is coming after. People with passion, they will always find the way because they are creative. So they will find the money, they will find the material, and after some years to being good enough or better than others, we will be known and things happen. So it's just a matter of trusting yourself and trusting about the project and trusting about the community that you have around you, then everything will come. And and for us to be sustainable will be more and more easy because the government take the money from school to give it to us. So it's easier. I don't know, joke. We need to find a way for us to make a different money and bring back to the school also some energy more, and then the money will come back to the school as well. But first is the community, maybe trying to have like one teacher in each school who can support each other because they are the only one crazy in this school. But if they are part of a wide community, as we was in the beginning of internet, I think the makerspace, hackerspace, FabLab, they appeared because we was talking on internet about I like miniature train, I like doing some Star Trek costumes and so on. I have no friends around me, but I have friends around, and then people needed a space to gather, and then money happened, machines and whatever, and then as you can see, they had a purpose since the beginning, more about observing, about building technology and so on. But then, after being good enough, learning and empowering, they can have they can have impact on local community, about politics, and about the world, in fact. So that we can't change the world, but if the community is enough big, we can. So it's just a matter of piece of things that we are doing, gathering people who have idea and want to share, and everything is possible. So we can do it.
Maybe I can add a development after about the mother. The parents with the kids in the program have also younger kids asking, but why you have not a program for young kids? How young? 3 years old. It is maybe too young. We can organize eventually some wild kindergarten, so this kindergarten in the forest, something. Oh, but but how we can do it? We can pay. So the parents says, if you want a teacher for these kids to make a wild kindergarten, we are going to share the expense and we are going to pay. So we found girls that started a wild kindergarten in the same place we have been building an island, but a small one with the boat going there. And the parents decided that they want to pay for the teacher to do also something with a really, really small one. So we had this 3 years wild kindergarten all around in the forest, in the swamp, also enjoying, and the parents paid. So no states, no sponsor, just parents wanted to have the kids there. Happened that also. After 10 years of all the programs, they just want the young brother and sister to join also the kids.
So, probably a lot of other questions we can ask, but I will take this opportunity also to ask our guests here, maybe to give some questions. Some of them are on the previous meeting, which was actually about building community. So community first, and take opportunity to ask our guest any questions related to the topics or to making or to education, non-formal NGOs.
Maybe I can start. Hello, I'm Christina. I'm working from NGO in biology education and STEM field also. and I just want to thank you all for all your words. I kind of find out that we have similar paths or similar way of thinking, and I think your work is very great. I really want to thank each of you. So, Mike, I have a lot of questions, but maybe I'll just say this one. I'm ex-teacher. It sounds like I'm ex-alcoholic or something. I really mean it in that kind of way, because I think that shift or my mindset is really pretty different than I was as a teacher. So most of the things that I know now, I think because of this non-formal learning that happened after the school and in NGO. So maybe if I want to maybe change mind shift of some other teachers in the school, like me, who are working in school, what do you think? What is the better way? To work with the teachers who are already creative. You said something about that you always have one or two teachers in school who are doing the stuff. Is it better to connect with them? And maybe that starts to get some kind of more influence in the school, or it's like no, because they are already creative, they don't need us. Or do you think it's a better way to start with the teachers who are just like kind of neutral, working in school for 20 years and they don't really have any kind of, I don't know, passion for do nothing? So maybe is it the right way to start with them and trying to find that kind of spark? Or what do you think, and what's your experience in that field, how we can share our influence, and how can we be more influential in this kind of formal education? What is maybe the right path?
I would say it's always the former, those creative teachers. As you mentioned, a creative teacher on their own is going to hit a wall and get burnt out after a few years. But expanding their network and what it does is provides that teacher a bigger platform and more confidence to even go beyond what they could do on their own. And honestly, the bigger impact that those teachers have, the more likely they're going to draw those other teachers who are sort of on the periphery and maybe see something there, but don't have the energy or the drive or confidence really to do it. So those teachers who are the ones that are those early adopters, I believe are the best change makers. It does obviously work best if they're not, butting heads with the administration. But it's come up a couple of times. The administration gets behind you once that buzz starts happening too, because they like the attention, they like, the energy that's coming on from press or other funding people, whatever. But in my case, in my experience, and what's worked in our area, it has always been finding those passionate teachers and then helping to connect them with people who can take their passion and bring it to the next level.
Maybe I can add, you usually don't know the teachers. The principal is somebody that knows who is who in the organization, and sometimes, very often, the principal is a teacher who really wants the school to be good and succeed. So you found an interested principal, and he can introduce to the teachers, and even work for the sponsorship. Sometimes the principals have a connection, right one, so at the beginning you are not starting with a zero. So if you don't know the teachers, and you know that the principal is good, go and speak with them. They have ideas and they want the school to succeed, so a good start.
I'd like to add, from our experience, indeed, as I said, we focus a bit on the first part, as you say, on the ones that are open to it. But what we do is, what we do to reach out to those other, what you call neutral teachers. I'll give you an example. Before I can give you the example, let me share you a small story. And the small story inside my machine also shows other stuff which is happening, which is what we call, maybe it's too heavy a word, but we call it an intergenerational collaboration. The primary school children, secondary level, and university students all together collaborate as peers. One group, they collaborate as peers from ideation to work on prototype. So it means they learn a lot from each other. I could go on that, but let me just one example. There's so many things that university students learn through the My Machine assignment. And one of them is, let me share the story of Victor. Victor is a university student, engineer, product design student in My Machine Slovakia, and he was part of this particular Dream Machine team. And he said, at one point, I needed to go back to the primary school. And the primary school in My Machine, they are the clients. And the primary school child is a brutally honest client. And it's a type of client that you can learn so much from. And so Victor said to the class, dear class, we have a problem. And the problem is called gravity. And so it's not going to work. And so the primary school children, they looked at Victor and they said, you know, Victor, this gravity problem, that's your issue. Deal with it. You know? And he said this was such an epiphany, such a kind of like, this is what we do as adults, you know, try to come up with the reasons why it will not work, where those little children, they don't accept it. It's like, you know. And what we then do as My Machine is try to stimulate this primary school teacher where this happened to say like, okay, so here's an issue being introduced by the university student called gravity. Maybe you, or maybe there's a teacher, or maybe if this would happen in secondary level, maybe you can reach out or use the Dream Machine, the My Machine experience when you teach physics. And then you say, let's go into gravity. What is gravity? And why did Victor come up and say, like, we think it's a problem? Now, what is gravity doing? And how can we create a solution? And then this is how, for example, also in secondary level, this is how the primary excited teacher, this is what we as My Machine try to do, is then to stimulate this teacher to talk to their peers and maybe to talk to the mathematics teacher and talk to the physics teacher, like, could you maybe once in your lesson use the Dream Machine that we're building as an example for your physics lessons or as an example for your mathematics lessons and apply it to the building of the Dream Machine. And this is how, starting from the very open creative teachers, trying to expand to the neutral ones. And of course you'll always have teachers that say, this My Machine thing is not my cup of tea, and that's fine. I mean, you know, there's never a one model fits all. This is how we try to expand the bubble, let's say. Yeah.
To answer the question, for me as well, it's the same. The teachers who are creative and interested, they find the question, they almost find the solution, they bring the material and sometimes the money and so on. So it's easy to work with them for sure. But the fact is, in doing that, we are doing the same as teachers are doing, that helping the students who are the most invested and leaving the bored or the one who don't know why he's in the classroom this time. So it means that we are leaving all the maybe people who have more potential, but they are just lost on the side. So we are doing exactly the easiest path that teachers choose to do because it's complicated. So we are repeating the same mistake, I think. So I don't know now how to reach the other teachers because we can't kidnap them and give them electroshock to change their thinking or to enlighten their life and start to be passionate about. I think that I had some teacher who was teaching something who was not really connected with, I don't know, I have a teacher who was teaching me woodworking and he was passionate about coins and he was printing coins like that just to watch them, how they was made and so on. And he shared with us this patience sometimes and just seeing that those people was
I just add one thing. You talked about working with teacher training institutes, and that's one of the things that I feel as an indicator of success in our local area. But it's taken 10 years now to get our local state university that credentials the vast majority of the teachers to even consider now putting in a plan that's going to be in place next fall to integrate this stuff into the into the regular teacher education program. But our county office started essentially an emergency credential program, they call, because there's not enough teachers. So there's an avenue to getting your credential by coming in and teaching, and then taking the certification courses at night or on the weekend. And we've been running, I've been running a maker component to that program for 4 or 5 years. So sort of a little disrupting element had to get in there, but and that took 4 or 5 years to be able to get the attention of the bigger institution to be able to want to do that as well. And that has been after I've worked for our certificate program for existing teachers inside that university for probably 5 or 6 years. So it's a long game to change education, and oftentimes companies with money and big ideas and want to replicate what worked in business. It's a different animal, right? And it's very possible to lose your steam as a person trying to make that change as well. But I guess in our area, I can say that it is working. Nothing's perfect, but given time and given the right collection of people that are seeing this, there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's the best I've seen that changes education, given all of the difficulties that are in there. So I just want to throw that out there. And I'd love to have you come and visit, and I can show you some of these schools. So it's not yeah. Exactly.
Also, I think that if it's not possible to connect, or you don't find a way to connect your passion with teaching, or what you are teaching, maybe it can be just to leave your passion outside of the school better. If you like to be dressed as a medieval fair, and if you like to cook, or if you like jazz or whatever, or if you like to play an instrument, or you would love to play an instrument, yeah, just do that. Do things for you also. And maybe at the beginning it will be difficult to do, but you can bring that at school and also say to the kid, hey, I'm trying to play saxophone. I'm a mathematical teacher, but I'm also human, and I have failed, I have ambition, I want to do things, and maybe also it can be cool to leave some time to the kids. Maybe it can be a 5-minute a week for each kid to show something that make them alive, or what they want to share with the others. And if the teachers do as well, instead of having like this hierarchy, maybe it can be just, hey, we are humans, we are different age, I know something, you know something, and we can exchange.
But this is also the some kind of role of third spaces, which are hacker spaces, maker spaces. You can do just the customs with the sewing machine, or someone else is 3D printing something else. It's not regulated, so it's up to the passion of the and also group which is around, and someone say something, make some comment, maybe inspire this person to do something else or make something different. So yeah.
Maybe the discussion is maybe too much teachers. We have a lot of hobbies with passion, and with just a little bit of supervision, they are unbelievable to transmit this passion to the kids. So teachers are teachers, but we have a lot of people in clubs that can help us a lot. So we have once a year, 1 week education for we call them mentors that are outside the teaching community. We said these passionate hobbies, and we really need them, especially this making robots. Once was ham radio. So we have a lot of people that can enter and help in anything, really. And don't search people that help you in schools only. Just you have nice, passionate people in the clubs. Search also there.
Thank you. Maybe some other, yeah, please.
Thank you. I have something to share with you. Thank you for all. I work almost 12 years in non-government organization, and we met so many teachers. So we met teachers who are very motivating and someone who not. So we ask some students who will be in future teachers. They come to our organizations. Why you choose to work with children? And some of them said, we don't know. So I asked one professor from university, why you don't have some selection for people who want to be teachers? Because we need high motivating and creative people. They make very serious job. And they said, she told me, you know, when we have a selection, we will not have enough teachers. So I go to one principal in primary school, and then I ask her, what school do for very motivating teachers who are very creative and make wonderful stuff with kids? And she told me, nothing, because we don't have money, we don't have some benefits, so nothing. We cannot offer nothing for them. So it is a very important question for us. What could we do to make a change? And when I saw many kids when they come in our organization with their teachers, and you can see, when you look their faces and their eyes, you can see which teachers are bad and which are good. Because when we have children with open eyes, like stars, we know that this is good teachers. But sometimes we have children in our organization, they are very sad, really sad, and we know it's a very bad thing. Thank you.
How to help teachers. So maybe I can say that you mentioned the money and maybe some resources, but I believe, and this is also up to the principals, to have some kind of recognition. You know, if you organize on the Friday and bring together school and say, this teacher do this with those kids, those projects, let's present them, this will be also some kind of satisfaction to this teacher. So it's not always about money, but how to be creative, even in this, let's say, recognition of some efforts or some enthusiasm or some initiative motivation from some of the teachers. This can be also maybe motivated, I don't know, in our creation context it might be don't do again, but maybe it can be also motivated for other teachers to do something. And to join this teacher and maybe make more projects and so on, because it's also about recognition. Another things we are trying to promote also as a FabLab is to organize a kind of, we usually join open school days, so we try to bring it to the public level, so open to community, and we join such events in the schools. And this is also opportunity to somehow promote those projects as a part of this. And yeah, this is also maybe something how to bring some other teachers. But maybe you have another opinion.
But just a strange thought. The importance of bad teachers. If they are not in the fields that are really, really important for the kids, it is great. It is destroying that idea that authority exists. And if you are good principals, you need to have at least 2 bad teachers, so the kids can understand the good, that authority really don't exist. No, don't smile. It is very important. Just go to read Harry Potter, whatever. It is important to have bad teachers, to have a good teacher, but with opinion, so that they learn the world that exists out of the school. It is not perfect, so let's replicate the non-perfect system in the school also. Not all bad teachers, but one or two there, especially in geography, something. It is not others like so.
No, I can see the advertisement, we're hiring for 2 bad teachers this year. Apply as,
No, therefore, to have a growth and understand that authority, you need to gain authority with the work you are doing. If you have not done your work as teacher, you have no authority. So this is something that they need also to learn. So I am for bad teachers in the school.
But still, not too bad. Not a critical mass.
And also happens that you have so-called bad kids in the school, and they come to the workshops. They are perfect.
Yeah.
They are not, or if they are hyper, just run around and they return, and they say, "Ah, these kids are brilliant." Why? It is so good. Just give him a possibility to work, to express, to run whatever. Don't make it sit and becoming a different person. So this is also the reason that programmers that are helping these kids that are going to be in other ways just throw out of the system to show them that they're really good.
You want to share something?
I was working in Poland, running a FabLab makerspace. And we was doing a lot of workshop at school. First because we had material, because we asked material to do workshops. So they pay for the material, and then we started to workshop at school, so for free. And we was doing these workshops twice a week and so on. And I was not speaking Polish, so I was working with the English teacher, was trying to help and bring activity. It was a small village also, so it was small city, in fact. Small city, but after a while we stopped to those workshops. And the parents say, "Oh yeah, but my kids was really happy about those workshops, and we would love to pay a bit, you know." So the principal started to talk to some parents. Principal was trying to organize also, because some kids didn't have money or parents didn't have money, so she managed to organize that people was paying for coming for us to come to the workshops. But then when we start to reach parents to see them every week because they was taking the kids out and so on, we say, "Oh, yeah, but it's sad that you know, the mayor is not, you know, helping a bit." And then they go to the mayor, the parents of kids, and then they start to talk with the mayor and say, "Hey, they are doing things, but you are not helping." Or some of the parents was working for the newspaper, and they say, "Oh, this is happening, and the authority is not paying for." So then there was kind of in trouble because they needed to do something. So it happened that the teacher then was supported by the city. For the school, it was just, you know, more activities and so on. So it was possible to do that, and then the city nearby was like 15 kilometers from there. They say, "Hey, we already talked to the mayor, and we want to do the same as this one, and because of the election and so on." So yeah, and then he invited us. We had pictures in the newspaper and so on, and he paid for workshops all year long. So teacher wanted this activity, talk to the parents, and use the parents as a pressure for the kids. So I think maybe we can cheat like that and force politics, because they need voice. So if they need voice, they should be good for us. Yeah.
Because we are almost on time, maybe just any questions? Maybe? No?
You have here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. My name is Nikola. Hi, everyone. I'm a product designer, actually, and I make toys for education.
it goes. But the principals are those who, I don't know, have so many different things. So my question, not to be so long in this, is how to attract principals to think like their teachers. I think that beyond everything is how to motivate the head of the system from the top, not from the bottom. Because if you motivate them from the top, then teachers who actually work with children would have easier way. For example, students have recognitions and something. Why wouldn't schools or I don't know principals have those kind of recognition? My question was, how do you manage these things outside the administration, for example, some ideas or something like that? Thank you.
How to overcome principles.
Maybe I want to share a personal, how do you say this in English, a personal mantra throughout my career has been that there's so much to learn, what you would call cross-industry. And what it means is that, for example, in Belgium, I created 2 cross-industry networks where I bring together people in the same room, people working in healthcare, people working in education, people who are artists, company owners, people who work for government, because there's so much they can learn from each other. And for example, I remember a story of two cultural organizations in a certain city in Belgium that decided to merge, to become one organization. Now, to merge organizations, that is not easy. You talk about money, you talk about people, you talk about you got 2 directors. Who's going to be the one? Who's going to be the final director? And so on. So there are lots of things happening there. The way they did this merger, I asked them. So we bring people together. I asked them like, okay, bring your story. Like, how did you do this? And then afterwards, there were business owners coming up saying, my goodness, we have some mergers coming up, and a couple of things in your story that you did are brilliant ideas, and we're going to use the same methodology to merge the companies that we're thinking about. And so, in the beginning, to convince company owners that they can learn stuff from how people working in the cultural industry branch it's a bit difficult to in the beginning to motivate them, like listen to those people because you might learn it from them, and vice versa. And so it also happened concerning education, where we could inspire, for example, those principals to become part of that network so that they can learn how healthcare is maneuvering and what's happening and how they respond to it and how they make decisions, and company owners, and that is I've seen it happening over the years, and still it's so inspiring for so many people, hoping that they will translate what they learn inside their, for example, in this case, inside their school. And one of the things that I wanted to add is that, which is something I try to share in those networks as well, is another mantra, is that there's a saying in Belgium that, again, because Belgium has a lot of tax money, so it's the government that redistributes this money. And so the question is, how do you redistribute the money? Who gets the money, and how much money do they get? And so a typical politician in Belgium would say, I don't want to give small money to lots of organizations. A typical politician would say, I don't like that. I want maybe 1 or 2 organizations, and they will get all the money. And I, as a politician, I, as a Belgian government, we trust this organization to organize whatever it is, for example, supporting entrepreneurial skills in education. And we create there's this one organization, they get all the money, and they need to do this in education. Where I say, I don't like that idea. I think it's like, it's about letting as many flowers bloom as you can. And so to make sure that you have this this fertile soil of people with creative ideas that want to do something, the way you can support them is to give a little bit of money to lots of organizations. And yes, ideas will fail, but other ideas might. And this is something that I think the principles that you're thinking of, I think if they would learn that, to trust their teachers and say, like, I'll give you some free space that you can come up with ideas, and the only thing I say is, like, yes, just do it, show it. If they would do that, I think then you have a culture in your school where a teacher would feel appreciated in terms of, I can just experiment, and it's okay to fail, because I thought this was going to be a great idea. We tried it, and in the end we learned, like, okay, maybe it's not that good idea, we'll do something different. But as long as the head teacher or the principal is okay with that, we said, and those are things I think that you can bring to those people. I believe in this is what we've been doing is creating this cross industries, showing that it's not just an educational thing, the same thing, it's the same issue. You know, company owners have the same issue. How do I make sure that the people that work for my company can come up with ideas, can share their ideas, and that we as a company can assess those ideas and maybe say, hey, maybe that's a great idea for our next, maybe we should create a prototype, and maybe this will become the next product. So these company owners have the same issues, and bad companies are the ones that do not allow their people to express ideas. The good companies do. And so this is where companies can learn from schools can learn from companies, from cultural organizations, how do you do it? And that's, I think, one piece of the puzzle to solve this.
Sure. Okay. Also, out of the school, maybe you can bring the students out of the school. Say, I will be there at this time, and come with your parents, and we will visit a makerspace or the observatory maker fair, or a windmill who is producing floor. I don't know. And I want to show you that, but with the school it's not possible. But I really want to show you that. So we will do it by ourselves. And you will do this maybe 3-4 times. And then parents will start to complain and say, hey, why we are not organizing that at the school during the lesson, And it will happen maybe, So the same, try to bottom up, like create the community, and then the system and the money will follow, because it's the way where people goes.
Can I say a little bit more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say that they use final words, so
okay.
you are able to.
Okay. So I could talk about the gravity issue in schools forever, and the things that make change difficult, right? I mean, and I don't want to start on that because I want to say positive. There are two good things that we do. I don't know how replicable they are across the globe, but in the U.S. in our area, there's a school choice. So there's a competition for a dwindling number of students as the school-age children population diminishes. So principals are interested in attracting students. It's a free market system essentially. So that's been one way that we've shown that we have some more exciting ideas. That's brought people along. But another thing that's related to the two questions, I think, that's another probably less established but really promising idea is this idea of externships, where the teachers and the principals are invited for a small period of time, a week or two during the summertime, to actually embed themselves in industry with our local industry partners to see what the real world is. Because most of them have been in the education system for all their lives, right? If you're a principal, it's probably been 20 plus years that you've been in the system. Your worldview is limited to what you know. So the ways to get people in education out, as you talked about, the externships has been a really promising sort of way of breaking that paradigm and seeing what's out there in the real world. So I'd be happy to, it's not my project per se, I work a little bit with them in doing some connection, but I really am excited about that prospect.
Last closing words.
But no, it's not. I was just checking what is the same in the system, the same only the kids that we need to have. Our government is copied a part of the giving to few, but not a lot, but a small amount. So it is just the worst of the bottom that you mentioned. And just we have the same kids, the same eyes, the same interest. They want us to help them, especially if they see that the school is not giving them what they really need. We are the one that need to provide it. So just let's go push, exchange ideas. I'm checking colleagues in Belgium, in the United States, all around the world, what they're doing. Every word is so different. Israeli one, the South Korean one, colleagues. So in the Italian one, everybody have very, very different problems, but the same are all the kids. So let's push, try to help each other, but the experiences are very, very localized. So I really can use the part of the imagination, but the part financing, it is our, it is very, very different. Even the parents are different, the societies are different. Your responsibility to the parents and to the kids are very different in each place. So let's learn and try to push in the local environment, because this is the place that we are working. If you are international, okay, you have a different problem, but we are at the moment a national program, and we have problems of all our own, and nobody can help. And your experience, we can really not use at the moment. The ideas with the principle and the problem, I see change the principle. It's one of the way. Just think radical. Don't think it small. You don't like the principle, you like the school, change the principle. It is something that you can do. Just focus, and in everything you just need time. If you have time, you are really good.
Can I ask one question, please? Just one.
Can you hold it for networking?
Okay.
So we invite you all to small finger food, and you can talk and ask maybe if you still have some questions, because I really want to thanks to all you.
And also workshop for bad teachers.
To all you panelists, finding time, coming here, exchanging and sharing your experience, your opinions with us. So I really, from bottom of my heart, want to thank you